Discover the hidden moments that change a life forever, an incredible 25-year journey revealed. Jack Thompson was a simple man in a small Midwestern town, but under the grease and dirt of his mechanic's overalls, he carried history, the tales of his father, a veteran haunted by the shadows of war. In the heart of Elmwood, where family-run shops lined Main Street, Jack's garage was not just a business, it was a lifeline. Oil-stained hands worked tirelessly, but it was the often unseen weight of duty and loyalty that truly shaped him. Every wrench turn echoed the sacrifices his father made amid demons that no one else could see. However, looming over this tight-knit community was a threat: powerful corporations eyeing to erase their local charm. An unrelenting economic downturn had tightened everyone's grip on survival. It felt like the hope was fading. Jack would watch helplessly as familiar faces that once greeted him with warm smiles now wore brows furrowed with worry. Conversations drifted to hushed tones as townspeople gathered, expressing their fears about losing not just their jobs, but their sense of belonging. One fateful afternoon, while cleaning out his late father's possessions, Jack stumbled upon an old, dusty letter tucked between forgotten keepsakes. Hearts raced as he unfolded it, revealing words that grasped his soul. It spoke of bravery, written by hands that fought for his future. It told stories of hardship, sacrifice, and surrender, igniting a fire in Jack's heart, a realization that humility and honor ran deeper than he had ever imagined. The letter compelled Jack to act. Watching his neighbors lose faith sparked a newfound determination. "We can't let them take this from us," he shouted to a small gathering of friends. The flicker of hope caught like wildfire, spreading through the community. There was a resilience in sharing the burden, where the strength of the group overshadowed the despair of the individual. They began to rally, meetings sprouting like daisies in a field once ruled by fear and hopelessness. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the day of the town hall meeting approached, the tension grew thicker. Jack stood at the center of it all, hands trembling but determined. The old letter was clutched tightly in his grip, a symbol of sacrifice and an emotional anchor. "This isn't just about my garage," he began to say, looking into familiar faces that once held joyous laughter but now seemed burdened by doubt. The weight of expectations loomed like dark clouds overhead, ready to rain doubt on his dreams. And just as he prepared to inspire change, a loud crash reverberated from outside the hall. The sound swept through the air, chilling everyone to silence. All eyes turned, breaths held, hearts pounding. In that heart-stopping moment, Jack realized that the future of Elmwood, the very essence of their fight, hung precariously in the balance. What would happen next? Would the lights of hope flicker, or burn bright against the shadows of uncertainty? The noise echoed again, a sickening crash that felt like it resonated in the very bones of Elmwood. Jack's heart raced, his grip tightening on the letter. The gathering had fallen silent, fear palpable in the air. He could see the trepidation on their faces, a community teetering on the edge of despair. "Stay calm, everyone," he shouted, trying to break the spell of dread that held them. "Let us see what's happening out there." He was met with hesitant nods and a few brave souls who edged towards the door. With each step he took onto the front porch, the chaos outside unfolded like a nightmare. A large delivery truck, one of those imposing machines from a corporation, had crashed into the front of his garage. It looked like a bull in a china shop, demolishing everything in its path. The sight of twisted metal and shattered glass sent a wave of panic through the crowd. "Jack! What are we going to do?" someone cried out, their voice trembling with fear. For a moment, Jack felt a swell of hopelessness, but then he remembered the letter. His father's words rallied in his mind like soldiers on a battlefield. "This is our town, our lives. We can't let fear win," he shouted. The energy shifted, and the townspeople began to gather closer, looking to him for guidance. "Let us push back," Jack exclaimed. "We won't let them steal our home." With newfound determination, they rallied together, voices blending into a collective roar. They surged towards the wreckage where the driver, looking just as terrified, stumbled out of the cab. Jack confronted him, anger and desperation coursing through him. "Who sent you? What are you doing here? It wasn't supposed to happen." The driver stammered, clearly shaken by the chaos he had created. "I was just making a delivery." "Delivery of what?" Jack pressed, desperation fueling his demands. The driver hesitated, as though deciding whether to speak the truth. "Supplies for the new construction crew. They said they were going to clear the area for the new shopping center." The words hit like a punch to the gut. All the town's fears came flooding back. The corporation was a step closer to erasing Elmwood, replacing its soul with cold concrete. The whispers among the townsfolk turned to heat, voices rising as they debated their next move. "We need to call the others," someone yelled. "They need to know what's really happening." Jack's pulse quickened. He had ignited a fire in them with his speech, but this was a call to arms. "We'll stand together. We won't let them bulldoze over our dreams." As the crowd erupted into fierce unity, Jack felt a powerful surge of hope. They would make a stand not just for his garage, but for every shop, every smile that had graced Elmwood. With the adrenaline flooding through him, he felt his father's spirit standing with him, their shared resilience waking a flame that could not be extinguished. But as they gathered and organized, a black SUV rolled into view, dust rising like a dark omen in its wake. Jack's gut twisted. This was serious. They were not just dealing with a drunk driver. Someone from the corporation was coming to assert their dominance, and Jack knew he had to prepare them for the showdown that was about to unfold. Could they safeguard their town, or would the corporate giant crush their spirit in one brutal blow? The moment of truth hung in the air like a storm cloud ready to break. The SUV glided to a halt in front of the crowd, cutting the collective din to silence. Jack's heart raced as he squinted through the dust and the fading light. The driver stepped out, clad in a sharp suit, an expressionless mask framing his cool blue eyes. He surveyed the scene, the devastation of his company's handiwork, and then focused on Jack. Now, he called, his voice smooth as silk but slicing through the tension like a knife. "There's no need to get so worked up. Just an unfortunate accident, really." "Unfortunate?" Jack spat, almost laughing at the absurdity. "You drive a truck into my garage, and that's your idea of unfortunate?" Before the suit could respond, someone from the crowd shouted, "We're not going to let your corporation take our home. Can't you see what you're doing?" The man adjusted his collar, clearly unbothered by the escalating anger. "I understand your concerns, but this development will bring jobs to Elmwood. Growth and progress, gentlemen and ladies, is sometimes messy." "Messy?" Jack echoed, indignation rising in his chest. "You call this progress? You're bulldozing memories and families for your profit. People will lose their homes, their livelihoods." A murmur swept through the crowd, a swell of anger and defiance that filled Jack with hope. He turned back to the townsfolk, their faces a mix of fury and fear, but also determination. This could be their moment of unity, the spark they needed to fight back. "Are we going to let him walk all over us?" Jack called. "Are we going to stand by and watch while they destroy everything we love about Elmwood?" "No." The crowd shouted, their voices gathered into a single, thunderous sound that made the air tremble. The suited man raised a brow, but beneath his bravado, Jack caught a glimpse of discomfort. The tide was turning. Jack took a step closer, summoning every ounce of courage he had. "I grew up here. I learned how to ride my bike on these streets. This town raised me, and I refuse to let you tear it apart without a fight." "This isn't personal," the man replied, but unease shook his steady facade. "It is personal," Jack insisted, the urgency building. It's personal for everyone here. We're not just names on a map. This is our home. As if on cue, a group of children, playing in the distance, laughed and ran toward the chaos. Their innocent faces reminded everyone that this wasn't just about buildings, it was about lives, real lives and futures. Jack watched the crowd, their faces showed a mix of anger and fierce protectiveness. They understood now they needed to act. "Let us organize," Jack shouted out to them. "We need to unite our voices. Let us show them that they can't just walk in and take our town." The crowd erupted in cheers. Hearts raced with a newfound spirit, the invisible chains of fear began to break. Just as Jack felt they were rallying strength, a woman stepped forward, her eyes glistening. "Jack, what do we do? How do we stop them?" Jack took a deep breath. "We need to find a way to gather evidence, document anything they try to do. We need to take our story to the newspapers, the city council, everyone who will listen. We need to let the world know what they're trying to do to Elmwood." He glanced back at the suited man, whose frown deepened as he realized there was no easy way out of this. Jack sensed that the fight was far from over, and now he had the town behind him. As plans formed and voices buzzed with determination, a chilling thought enveloped Jack. This was just the beginning. They'd have to face many more challenges, obstacles laid out by the corporation that loomed over them like a looming shadow. But deep down, Jack felt a flicker of hope ignite. They had each other, and together, they could stand against anything, couldn't they? Just then, a sharp noise sliced through the air, a siren's wail, echoing ominously down the street. Jack's heart skipped. What now? He muttered under his breath, bracing for what was about to come next. The siren grew louder, cutting through the thick tension in the air like a blade. Jack's heart pounded, each beat echoing his mounting anxiety. The crowd shifted uneasily, glancing toward the source of the noise, eyes wide with apprehension as dark figures emerged in the distance. "Police!" someone murmured, catching Jack's attention. He turned to see flashing lights illuminating the street, their ominous glow contrasting sharply with the warm sunset. The suited man remained unmoved, but Jack could see the twitch at the corner of his lips, a flicker of doubt or perhaps even fear. As the police cars pulled to a stop, the officers inside exchanged quick glances before stepping out, looking ready for whatever chaos might unfold. Jack felt a rush of dread. Would they be there to protect the people of Elmwood or enforce the corporation's ambitions? "Stay together!" Jack shouted, his voice cutting through the crowd's rising panic. "This is our town. We have rights." The police officers approached, their expressions stern. One, a tall man with a closely cropped beard, stepped forward. "What is going on here?" he asked, crossing his arms over his chest with an air of authority. "They're trying to take our homes." Jack blurted out, unable to keep the urgency out of his voice. "They want to tear down our neighborhood for some greedy development." The officer narrowed his eyes, looking between Jack and the suited man. "And you think that shouting will stop progress?" "It's not just shouting." Jack cried out, anger and desperation intermingling as he gestured to the people around him. "Look at them. They're scared, but they're ready to fight for what's right. We deserve a chance to be heard." The crowd murmured in agreement, faces stained with a mixture of fear and determination. They were standing together, their solidarity palpable in the gathering dusk. The police officer regarded the mob with suspicion. "You need to calm down. We just want to ensure that no one gets hurt." Before he could finish, the suited man cut in, his voice dripping with condescension. "Officer, I assure you, this is merely a misunderstanding. My company means no harm, we're here to develop the town. You have to see that we're bringing opportunity." "Opportunity?" Jack shouted back. "By demolishing families and homes? You think this is opportunity?" The tension in the air turned electric, and suddenly, a woman from the crowd cried out, "What about the community? What about the people who live here?" Jack watched as the officer appeared torn, his values seemingly clashing with the orders he was following. Behind him, the siren's lights flickered against the gathering dusk, casting a surreal glow over the scene. "Look," the officer replied finally, "we can only do so much. If you all remain peaceful, there won't be any need for force." "Force?" Jack echoed, every muscle in his body tensed. The threat loomed heavily in the air. "We're standing here for what's right. Don't let them bully us into silence." At that moment, something shifted in the crowd. A few people started to raise their phones, recording the scene. It was a small act, but it felt like a spark lit in the dark night. Jack felt it too, a sense of fight that had begun to swell within him once again. They weren't powerless. As voices rose, the police officer turned to his partner, who stood stiffly behind him. "Stand down for now. Let us see how this plays out." A sense of relief washed over Jack. But that relief was short-lived. It dawned on him that this moment was just the opening act of a far greater battle to come. He glanced around, meeting the eyes of each person in the crowd. They were ready, invigorated. But as the sirens dimmed into the background, Jack's heart was heavy with the weight of uncertainty. With the police settling in to watch, and the suited man's expression hardening, Jack felt the ground shift under his feet. Would they truly stand together, or would fear rend them apart? In that moment, he realized all eyes would be on them, not just from the police, but the corporation looming behind them. If they were going to fight, they'd need to unearth truths hidden deep within Elmwood's rich history, truths that could sway the pendulum in their favor, but would they find the courage to go there? Would those hidden moments from the past change the future of Elmwood forever? As uncertainty brewed within him, Jack knew the next step was crucial. He needed a plan, and fast. But what did that plan look like? The air crackled with energy, a palpable mix of hope and fear swirling around Jack and the crowd. They were on the edge, like a tightly wound spring, ready to either snap or push forward. He took a deep breath, scanning the faces surrounding him, neighbors, friends, families who had stood together through countless winters, barbecues, and block parties. This was their fight, it was personal. "Listen up," he called out, his voice steady despite the turmoil in his chest. "This is our home. These buildings hold our stories, our lives. We've seen each other through tough times, and now it's time to fight together." The crowd responded, a chorus of voices rising in agreement. The sound grew stronger, filling the street with an unmistakable solidarity. Jack felt the urge to leap forward, to carry that momentum into an action plan. But what could he do? He needed something concrete. His eyes caught sight of old Mrs. Henderson, clutching her grandson's hand while she wiped tears from her cheeks. "They can't take away our history," she said, her voice trembling but resolute. "Elmwood has always been a place for families. We can't let them tear it down." Her words ignited a spark in Jack. "You're right." He turned to face the crowd, emboldened. "We need to remind them of what this place means. We need our history out in the open. Every street, every building has a story." The crowd murmured in agreement. A sense of purpose began to grow like a fire stoked with kindling. They were not just taking a stand, they were presenting a narrative, a legacy. Jack could feel the shift, the weight of uncertainty began to lift, replaced by a glimmer of determination. "What if we gather our stories?" he proposed. "What if we put together videos, letters, anything that shows the heart of this community? We can show them that Elmwood isn't just a plot of land, it's filled with lives and dreams." A burst of energy rippled through the crowd. People nodded, exchanging glances, their eyes brightening with possibility. They began to talk amongst themselves, ideas flowing like the wind through the trees. "Yes, we can create a community board, a collection of our memories," said a man near the front, his brow furrowed in concentration. "We can hold events, invite people to share their stories." Jack felt elated. The plan was forming, thickening in the air. He could envision posters going up, parents talking about their children's first steps in Elmwood, the memories that clung like vines to each block. Elmwood was alive with history, and it was theirs to fight for. As they strategized, Jack suddenly caught sight of the suited man, who stood isolated, arms crossed, his face a mask of frustration. Jack felt a thrill run through him. The man was likely used to dealing with complacency, to intimidating those who dared to challenge him. But today, Jack saw the cracks in that facade. "What's your name?" Jack shouted, pointing directly at him. The man bristled, taken aback. "Why do you care?" "Because you'll remember us," Jack called back confidently. "You'll remember Elmwood and the people who live here. We will stand together." The man scoffed, but for a moment, Jack caught a glimpse of unease in his steely eyes. It was enough to fuel Jack's fire even more. As discussions bounced around, amping up the energy, the police officers maintained their distance, watching as the crowd found its voice. Jack knew the tide had turned, if only just slightly. "Let us meet tomorrow," he declared, raising his arms to rally the group. "We'll share stories, gather our history. We'll show them who we are." A collective shout erupted, suffusing the street with raw passion. Jack felt the warmth of hope fill his chest. Yet, overshadowing that hope was a gnawing fear: would this effort be enough? Could they truly hold back the corporation? The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Daylight faded, but deep within, Jack felt a new dawn rising for Elmwood. Together, they were more than just a crowd, they were a community. But would their stories and strength forge the change they so desperately sought? Tomorrow was their first real test, and as Jack looked around, uncertainty crept back in. What would unfold when they presented their collective voice? Would they be heard, or would it all be in vain? Jack woke the next morning feeling the cool breeze drift through his window, a stark contrast to the fire still burning in his heart from the night before. He stretched and glanced at his reflection in the mirror, the worry lines etched deeper than usual. Today wasn't just another day, it was their stand, their voice, and he needed to be ready. As the clock ticked closer to the meeting time, Jack could feel a knot tighten in his stomach. What if nobody showed up? What if the world outside Elmwood didn't care about their stories? He glanced around his small apartment, usually filled with the daily noise of his younger siblings, but today, he felt strangely alone. "All right, let us do this," he muttered to himself. He slipped on a worn t-shirt that read Elmwood Proud and a pair of scuffed sneakers, the gear of a man ready to fight for his home. When Jack stepped outside, he was greeted by the bright sunlight washing over the familiar streets. Each house, every corner, stirred memories within him. He pictured laughter echoing through backyards and kids playing tag until the sun surrendered to twilight. A flicker of hope sparked in the pit of his stomach. As he headed toward the park where they planned to gather, he saw Mrs. Henderson again. This time, she was setting up a table littered with photos, pictures of Elmwood's past filled with smiling faces and joyful moments. The sight settled a layer of comfort on Jack's shoulders. "Good morning, dear," she called, looking up from her work. "I brought a few old things. I thought they might help spark some more stories." Her eyes twinkled with wisdom, and Jack couldn't help but smile back. "Wonderful idea, Mrs. Henderson," he exclaimed, rushing to her side. "This is exactly what we need. It's going to resonate with everyone." As the clock ticked closer to the gathering, more residents started trickling in. Each one carried their own stories, be it a faded newspaper clipping, a childhood drawing, or heartfelt letters that chronicled their love for the community. The air buzzed with anticipation as they exchanged tales, laughter, and even a few tears. As the crowd grew, Jack stood on a small bench to get their attention. He looked at the sea of familiar faces that had braved storms together, shared joy during block parties, and held each other tight in dark times. "Thank you all for being here," he began, his voice steady. "Today, we're not just sharing stories, we're preserving our legacy." Cheers erupted, blending into an anthem of unity. The stories began pouring out, a tapestry of experiences woven from love and resilience. Each voice added depth to their shared history, and Jack felt himself grow lighter with each word spoken. But soon, a hush fell over the crowd as one of the elders stepped forward. It was Mr. Thompson, known for his fierce spirit and unwavering support during town meetings. "I remember the first time I moved into Elmwood 40 years ago," he began, his voice cracking slightly. "It was a simple house, but it became home. This place gathered us all, taught us to support one another." As he spoke, memories of community events flooded Jack's mind. He recalled countless nights of barbecues, block parties with music echoing until the early hours, and neighbors helping one another in times of need. In that moment, Jack felt the weight of their shared past. There was something powerful in those stories, something that transcended real estate and development plans. They were not just numbers or square footage, they were lives, families, and dreams rooted deeply in Elmwood. But just as the excitement began to swell, Jack spotted the suited man from the night before, standing at the edge of the park, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Jack's heart raced. Would he interrupt? Would he belittle their efforts? Yet, this time, the crowd didn't falter. Each story told wrapped around them like an invisible shield. As Mr. Thompson concluded with a rallying cry to protect Elmwood, Jack locked eyes with the man, the tension crackling like electricity between them. What would happen next? Would their stories be enough to move him? Would he join them or continue to stand as a barrier against their dreams? Jack held his breath, waiting for the response that could change everything. The silence hung heavy in the air, punctuated only by children's laughter from a nearby swing set. Jack's eyes remained glued to the suited man, who, after what felt like an eternity, finally moved. He stepped forward, out of the shadows and into the light of Elmwood's vibrant gathering. His expression shifted, the hard lines of his face softening slightly as he ran a hand through his slicked back hair. The man hesitated, glancing over the crowd. Jack felt the collective breath of the gathering, a shared mixture of hope and trepidation. "I wasn't expecting this," he finally admitted, his voice breaking through the tension like dawn breaking over a dark night. "You all seem very passionate about this place." Jack's heart raced. Was this a sign? Could he be swayed? The crowd leaned forward, eager for more. "Passion doesn't even scratch the surface," Jack called out, stepping down from the bench. "This is our life, our home. We've built it together." He gestured to the photos on Mrs. Henderson's table, vibrant reminders of their shared journey. "We have decades of joy, heartache, and memories that mean everything to us. Our stories matter." The man's brow furrowed, and Jack could almost see the gears turning in his head. Silence followed, but there was no uncertainty in Jack's heart. He pressed forward. "I know you've probably heard a million pitches about how much money could be made here. But those green numbers on a page? They don't mean a thing when you look at the faces of the people who live here." Jack's voice rose with fervor, the words pouring out almost like a hymn, captivating everyone who listened. "If you look past the spreadsheets, you'll find the heart of this town. The spirit that's been thriving here for generations. We want to grow, sure, but we want to grow together, without losing what makes Elmwood special." The crowd behind him erupted into applause. Even Mrs. Henderson wiped a tear from her eye, her smile brighter than ever, but the man's expression didn't change. "That's noble," he replied slowly, "but decisions aren't made like that." He sighed, glancing back at his colleagues, who stood a few paces behind him, arms crossed and nodding in agreement. "You'll need more than passion to stop what's already in motion." Some murmurs of discontent rippled through the crowd, but Jack raised a hand, allowing himself a moment of clarity. He understood that this fight wouldn't be won with mere words. It would require tangible actions, unified as a community. "Maybe we can show you what we bring to the table," he offered, the idea forming in his mind like a spark igniting a flame. "Let us give you a tour of our town. Not just the businesses but the homes, the lives behind those numbers. The heart seems to be missing in those discussions. We can change that." Jack's heart pounded as he spoke, not knowing if this would lead to camaraderie or further resistance. The suited man looked taken aback, blinking at Jack as if weighing his options. The crowd held its breath, anticipation pulsing in the air. Would he accept their offer? Jack dared to hope, then, just as the man opened his mouth, a sudden commotion erupted at the edge of the gathering. A voice shouted, someone waving a flurry of event flyers. It was Jenna, the town's most outspoken activist, her eyes wild with determination. You've got to see what they're really attempting. She rushed forward, and eyes turned toward her, curiosity piqued. Jack's heart raced, he feared she might derail the fragile moment he had created. What now? He mumbled under his breath as Jenna pushed through the crowd. Would her passion help propel them forward, or would it send them crashing back into doubt? What impact would her arrival have on their fragile negotiations? Jack's hope mingled with anxiety as he turned toward her, waiting to see how this sudden twist would shape their fight for Elmwood's future. Jenna's presence electrified the air, her energy spilling out like sunlight breaking through clouds. She jumped onto the bench, waving her stack of flyers high above her head. Everyone, listen. The crowd, still buzzing from Jack's impassioned plea, turned their focus to her. She was a whirlwind of enthusiasm, and her commitment was infectious. What's in those flyers, Jenna? A voice called from the back. They're about the development plans. Just look at what they're trying to do. She began handing out the flyers, her eyes wide with urgency. Jack felt a fresh wave of anxiety wash over him. Would this derail everything he had just built? Slow down. What's the big deal? Jack shouted, trying to rein in the excitement in a manner that wouldn't clash with Jenna's fervor. Jenna took a deep breath to steady herself. They're not just going to build a shopping mall, Jack. Look here. She scanned the crowd, trying to gauge their reactions. This is about paving over the park, displacing families, and cutting down our community center. This isn't just some harmless renovation, it's an outright siege on everything we love about Elmwood. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Eyebrows shot up and murmurs of disbelief followed. Jack felt his heart sink. Would this news crush the fragile momentum he had garnered moments before? Wait, Jack interjected, stepping toward her, hands raised. We've been given a chance to talk this out. Maybe there's still a way to work with them. Let us show the suited man what Elmwood truly represents before making any assumptions. Jenna shook her head, urgency spilling from her every word. Jack, they don't care. I've seen the documents. They're moving in fast, and by the time they finish their plans, it'll be too late for us to change anything. Jack's heart raced as he looked into the crowd. People he thought were united now wore expressions of uncertainty, their hope dancing on the precipice of despair. No. We can't go into this with fear. If we truly believe in this community, we have to show them who we are. He glanced over at the suited man, whose arms still remained crossed, eyes narrowing in thought. We can guide them through our community, show them our families, our stories. That's how we win this fight. Are you serious? Jenna snapped back, voice rising. You think your honesty is enough to turn these people? They're out for profit, Jack. This is bigger than us. Then, from somewhere deep within him, a familiar force ignited an ember of determination. What if we host a community event? He turned to the crowd, his voice gaining strength. Let us invite them in for a celebration of everything we are. We could showcase our crafts, our culture, our cherished memories. We plead our case with action, not just words. That's crazy, it might not even work, Jenna shot back, though her expression hinted at a flicker of compromise. But it might, Jack replied, locking eyes with her. And it might show them that we won. Just roll over. Our fight isn't just about preserving the town, it's about keeping the spirit alive. The crowd began to murmur, and Jack could see the wheels turning in their minds. Hope mingled with trepidation. Could they really push back against a big corporation with their collective strength? Please, if we don't try, then we've already lost, Jack urged, desperation threading through his voice. We can't let fear dictate our actions. If we believe in Elmwood, let us stand together. As Jack spoke, he saw the crowd's expressions shifting, their energy beginning to build again. They weren't ready to give up just yet. Jenna stood silent, contemplating his proposal. All right, let us do it. But we need to act fast and go big. As she spoke, Jack caught the suited man's gaze intensifying. Was he intrigued? Jack's heart surged with a mix of hope and determination. It seemed their fight was far from over. But before he could dwell on that thought, Jenna's voice cut through once again, and if this doesn't convince him, then what do we do next? The question hung in the air, a poignant reminder that the road ahead was uncertain, and the outcome could change everything. The sun cast long shadows across Elmwood, painting a canvas filled with anticipation and uncertainty. As the crowd buzzed with rising energy, Jack felt the swell of hope mingling with the weight of doubt still lingering heavy in the air. Jenna took a step back, her gaze sweeping over the faces of their neighbors and friends, each person carrying their own stories and pain. Okay, everyone, Jenna called out, her voice rallying those around her. Let us brainstorm how we can make this event truly resonate. What do we showcase? What do we want those developers to see? A woman near the front, Mrs. Thompson, spoke up, her voice trembling slightly with passion. The children. We could organize games, bring in the kids. Show them how much joy this park brings to our families. That's perfect. Jack exclaimed, nodding vigorously. And we can have local musicians playing. Showcase our culture and spirit. Another voice piped in from the back. We should have a farmer's market. People can bring their homemade goods, the best of Elmwood on display. As ideas flowed, Jack felt his heart race with excitement. Could this really work? Could a festival of sorts shift the mindset of the suited man? He imagined bustling stalls, laughter ringing through the park, the warmth of community. Yet, Jenna's serious expression reminded him not to get carried away. We need to be strategic. We can't just have a party, we need to send a clear message too. A peaceful protest woven in with our celebration. Jack nodded, feeling the weight of her words. Right. We can create signs, something simple but powerful to express our love for this place and what we stand to lose. A mix of joy and serious intent. Meanwhile, the suited man was observing from a distance. Jack glanced over, noticing that his expression hadn't changed, still unreadable. Was he even listening? Jack's stomach knotted, a whirlwind of doubt spiraled within him. Let us not forget why we're doing this, Jenna reminded everyone sharply, her eyes fierce. This isn't about a festival. It's about our homes, our families. We cannot forget that. As the crowd dispersed to start planning, Jack and Jenna lingered, tension building between them like a taut wire. What if we do everything right, and it still doesn't work? Jenna asked, her voice softer, perhaps revealing the vulnerability she kept hidden. Then we fight harder, Jenna. We can't back down. This place means everything to us, he replied firmly, yet the worry in his heart gnawed at him. What if their best wasn't enough? Hours turned into days filled with preparations. They crafted signs, gathered volunteers, and put together entertainment. But with each meeting, Jack felt a creeping fear. What if the suited man didn't care about their efforts? What if all they built crumbled like sandcastles before the tide? Finally, the day of the event dawned, bright and hopeful. Colorful banners waved in the gentle breeze as the park overflowed with families, laughter echoing in the sun. Jack stood at the entrance, taking it all in. This was a true celebration of Elmwood's spirit. Yet, as he scanned the crowd, he found himself searching for the suited man. Was he coming? As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a golden hue over the festivities, Jenna joined him, clutching a stack of flyers for the next rally planned. Are you ready? She asked, her eyes dancing with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Ready as we'll ever be, Jack replied, mind racing with doubts and hopes, but just as they turned to greet the crowd, a figure stepped away from the shadows, the suited man, with an expression that revealed nothing. Jack's heart raced. Would he join them or shatter their aspirations? Jenna whispered, and Jack felt the trembling of his resolve. The moment had arrived. With uncertainty looming like storm clouds, they prepared to face what lay ahead. Would this celebration turn into a victory or a heartbreaking defeat? The air was thick with anticipation as Elmwood's festival pulsed with a heartbeat of unity and resilience. Jack, standing at the edge of the park, watched as families gathered, their laughter mingling with the distant strumming of guitars and the aroma of homemade goods wafting through the warm summer air. This was their moment, yet in the pit of his stomach, doubt churned. Are you ready? Jenna asked, her voice laced with a mix of excitement and nervousness. Ready as we'll ever be, Jack replied, forcing confidence into his tone. Just then, a shadow loomed in the distance, and all eyes turned to the suited man walking across the vibrant grass, his expression unreadable. He blended into the celebration, yet carried an air that felt foreign, a harbinger of the corporate world against the backdrop of heartfelt stories and community pride. Jack, Jenna whispered, sensing his sudden tension. I know, Jack sighed, squaring his shoulders. But this is bigger than just us. This is for Elmwood. He felt her nod beside him, their resolve intertwined. People were bustling around, sharing laughter and memories. Children played games, their shrieks of glee echoing in the sunlight, while local artisans showcased their crafts, each piece telling stories of heritage and hope. But would this beautifully woven tapestry be enough to change the mind of someone committed to profit? As the suited man approached, Jack stepped forward, heart pounding. The crowd hushed, their curiosity palpable. Would he hear them? Would he see the essence of Elmwood laid bare before him? Thank you for coming, Jack began, his voice ringing through the air. You chose to step into our world today. This festival is a testament to what Elmwood stands for: the memories, the voices, the families. He glanced at the gathering, each face adorned with pride, and continued, we aren't just fighting for structures. We're fighting for our community, our history, our future. The suited man remained silent, arms crossed, but his gaze flickered over the joyous scene. Jack pressed on, you'll hear stories today, our stories about what this town means to us. It's not just about expediency and development, it's about people. A murmur of support swelled from the crowd as a few local legends took center stage, sharing tales of how Elmwood sparked joy during tough times, community barbecues that turned strangers into friends, holiday traditions that cemented bonds, safety amidst uncertainty. Each voice, each story added another layer to their identity, building a barricade of shared memories against the tide of corporate change. But just as Jack felt the momentum surging, Jenna stepped forward, hand clenched around a flyer. We also need you to understand what they're planning. This isn't just a renovation. It's mass displacement. It's loss. Holding the flyer aloft, she urged everyone to take notice. To bulldoze Elmwood is to erase all of us, our laughter, our tears, our shared victories. This park? It isn't just land, it's where we laughed until we cried, where we found hope after dark nights. Where our history stands tall. The crowd erupted into cheers, and even the suited man shifted, taking a step closer, curiosity lit obscuring his earlier detachment. Jack caught the shift in the man's demeanor. Perhaps something began to penetrate the walls of corporate indifference. Are you ready to listen? Jack called, lifting his voice over the roars of support. Are you ready to see what we can build together? For a moment, the world around them seemed to hold its breath. The suited man's lips tightened as if caught between two worlds, one of ambition and greed, the other of spirit and community. Finally, he spoke. Your passion is evident. But the crowd leaned in, anticipation thick. But I have a job to do, he continued. A corporation's call is not easy to resist. He looked at Jack, narrowing his gaze, yet you've shown me a side I hadn't considered. Jenna's eyes sparked with challenge. Then let us show you more. Let us give you a reason to care. This isn't just your job, this is our lives. Emboldened, Jack stepped closer, his voice steady. Let us create something beautiful, merge our visions. Let's not just develop, let us uplift. The suited man searched the crowd, gazing at the faces, hopes resting on him like unspoken agreements. Jack felt the atmosphere shift. A breath of possibility floated through the air. I'm not making promises, he finally said, tension still thick. But I'll consider it. I owe that to what I'm seeing here today. The murmurings of disbelief transformed into cheers, resonating through the park. Together? Jack urged, glimpses of possibility shining like stars in uncertain shadows. Yes, the suited man nodded slowly, the mask slipping a little further. I'm willing to explore it. If you gather your stories, perhaps we can find a path that honors both our goals. With that, Elmwood held its collective breath and then erupted into applause. There was a fire igniting hope, not just within Jack's heart, but in every person present. They would take this moment, seize the stories, breathe life into the dialogue. This wasn't the end of the fight, it was an opening, a commitment to work together, to remember what truly mattered. As dusk fell on Elmwood, with the warmth of community wrapping around them like a blanket, Jack knew they were no longer just individuals fighting a corporate giant. They were a united front, a family ready to carve out their future, preserving the history that had shaped them and endowing it with a promise to be ever brighter. Now, more than ever, they had become the heartbeat of Elmwood, and as they celebrated, inspired by resilience and hope, the community displayed not just a spirit alive but also a determination to preserve their legacy, one story at a time. So if you believe in stories like this, you need to subscribe now. Don't wait not even one more second to share this transformation with your friends. Hit that like button now to fuel the algorithm and keep this great content coming. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this ending because we want to hear from you. Join the community that believes change is possible. Together, we can make a difference.